I stood on the veranda of my hotel suite, watching the brilliant sun glitter off the placid water below. My phone vibrated in my palm. The call was from my eldest son, James. His voice was strained, almost panicked. "Mom, the room key cards aren't working. Can you come down and help us?" I glanced at the time. It was precisely 10 a.m., the precise moment I had anticipated. From my vantage point, I could see my family gathered by the pool, looking unconcerned and carefree, giggling, all convinced that I was still the same person who would always handle every problem. But not this time. This was the exact instant they would realize I was no longer their automatic cash machine, and I was no longer their obligation. Let me take you back 3 weeks prior to the phone call that put all of this in motion. My name is Evelyn Hayes. I am 70 years old, a widow for the past 5 years, and I reside in a peaceful suburban town called Ashton, California. My existence, since my husband passed, has been predictable but often solitary. I fill my days with baking cookies for the local market, knitting sweaters for neighbors, and maintaining a cozy home that still holds the echoes of past family gatherings and the happy sounds of my children. My eldest son, James, is 40. He's married to Sarah, who has a sharp sense of humor and an even sharper wit. My younger son, David, is 37, married to Lisa, who always seems to analyze people with her gaze before uttering a single word. Between them, they have provided me with 5 grandchildren, each one with their own unique spark. Yet it's Chloe, David's 19-year-old daughter, who often sits with me in the kitchen, listens to my tales, and notices when I become quiet. In early December, James called with a proposal that made my heart swell with happiness. A family vacation, he said, all of us together for a week in January at a stunning resort called Ocean's Edge in Florida. It had swimming pools, numerous eateries, and activities for the children. He wanted it to feel like the wonderful days of the past. For a brief moment, I felt youthful once more, as if the family circle had finally opened to make a space for me. I had no idea that this invitation came with a concealed price. It was a Tuesday afternoon when James called. The mild winter sunlight streamed through my kitchen window, highlighting the steam that curled upward from my mug. I answered the phone and heard his eager voice. "Mom, I have the best idea," he said. "Just picture all of us spending a whole week together at Ocean's Edge. The kids can swim, Sarah and Lisa can unwind, David and I can relax. You will absolutely adore it. We truly need this as a family." My chest tightened in a way it had not in years. For so long, I had only been included in Sunday dinners, sitting silently while conversations about careers and holidays I was never a part of swirled around me. Now suddenly, they wanted me in their plans. I blinked back a few tears. "That sounds wonderful, son. When would it be?" "The first week of January, 7 full days. But there is one minor detail. The hotel requires a single person to make the reservation. Could you handle that part? We will transfer the money later." The request landed softly, but its weight was immense. Of course, Mom takes care of the arrangements. Mom signs her name, assumes the risk, and makes sure everything goes smoothly. Still, the prospect of a holiday with everyone together erased my hesitation. "Of course, James, you can count on me." That same evening, I contacted the resort. The receptionist's tone was cheerful. 5 family suites, all inclusive, from January 2nd to the 9th. The total came to $4,200, with half as a deposit, due immediately, $2,100. My heart sunk. I had no idea how I would come up with that amount of money. That night, sleep would not come. I sat in my rocking chair with a small notebook, jotting and erasing numbers. My monthly pension was $800. I had $50 in cash tucked inside a kitchen envelope. There was a small emergency fund hidden in a sugar jar, but it was nowhere near enough. The next morning, I opened the drawer where my husband's wedding band rested next to my own. I turned my own ring over in my fingers, the tiny diamond catching the faint winter light. 42 years of marriage. A lifetime contained within one circle of gold. And yet, I knew what I had to do. I walked into Harrison's jewelry downtown. The owner, Mr. Harrison, had known me since I was a newlywed. "Evelyn, how are you?" he inquired kindly. I placed the ring on the counter. "What can you give me for this?" He examined it carefully. $800, he said at last. My throat tightened, but I nodded. It would have to suffice. With that money, my meager savings, and every single cookie I baked and sold on the Sunday market, I managed to scrape together the $2,100. I called the resort that afternoon and paid the deposit. My name was now on 5 suites for 7 nights for 12 people. Throughout December, I quietly made financial adjustments. I turned down the thermostat, walked instead of taking the bus, and worked late knitting blankets. Each sacrifice whispered the same promise to myself. This is for my family. This is for love. The morning of the trip, I put on my light blue dress, the one Chloe once told me made me look younger. I pinned on my mother's pearl necklace and carried my humble suitcase to the car. James honked from the street, his wife Sarah in the passenger seat scrolling through her phone, and 2 of the children in the back. "Good morning, everyone," I said brightly as I slid into the seat. Only the children looked up and smiled. Sarah mumbled a distracted hello without lifting her eyes. James's voice was weary as he asked if I was ready. I forced a cheerful yes. 3 hours later, we arrived at Ocean's Edge. The white facade glistened under the winter sun, tall palm trees swayed, fountains shimmered, and the sea air carried the scent of salt and blossoms. For a moment, my heart soared. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Inside, the lobby gleamed with polished marble and ornate chandeliers. I approached the reception desk, stated my name, and the clerk verified the reservation. 5 family suites, 7 nights, and 12 guests. She handed me a stack of elegant key cards, each one shaped like a seashell. I turned to share my excitement, but the area behind me was empty. James, Sarah, David, Lisa, even the younger grandchildren had already vanished toward the elevators. Only Chloe lingered, giving me a quick hug. "Grandma, the pool is huge," she whispered, with excitement. At least one person shared my sense of awe. I looked down at the key cards in my hand, heavy as stones. A trip meant to bring us closer was already pushing me aside. Chloe walked closely beside me as we navigated the long hall, searching for the others. We knocked on doors, peered around corners, but it was as if the rest of the family had simply disappeared. Finally, she tugged at my sleeve. "Grandma, there's something you should know." Her voice trembled. She took out her phone and showed me a group chat. At the top of the screen, the name No Drama Vacation, created by James Hayes on the same day he had called me with his charming invitation. My stomach churned. I scrolled through the messages. "Did you see how thrilled she was at check-in? At least she's good for something." Another line read, "Once she transfers the rooms, we can take care of the rest. Don't worry, the bank will let us dispute the charges after we check out. Free vacation, no drama." The words blurred together. 8 months of cookies and knitting, my wedding ring, my quiet sacrifices, all so my children and their wives could laugh in a hidden chat, plotting not only to exclude me, but to leave me with thousands of dollars in debt. I clutched the key cards tighter, my hands shaking. For a moment, I wanted to collapse right there on the pristine floor. But then Chloe touched my arm. "Grandma, are you okay?" "No, but I will not stay defeated." The old Evelyn would have hidden in her room, swallowing the humiliation. But not anymore. I had given too much. If they thought I would silently bear their treachery, they had no idea who they were dealing with. My family saw me as a liability. From this moment on, I would show them I was something else entirely. I closed the door of my suite and sat on the edge of the bed, the wide ocean extending beyond the veranda. My heart pounded quickly, not from fear, but from something new. Resolve. For 70 years, I had put myself last. Tonight, I would not. I reached for the phone. The first call was to my bank. I explained calmly that I was concerned a family member might attempt a fraudulent dispute on the resort charges. The representative listened, took notes, and promised to flag my account. If anyone tried to reverse the payment, a full investigation would be initiated. One line of defense was established. The second call was to the front desk. Within minutes, the resort manager, Mr. Rodriguez, introduced himself. He met me in his office, a man with understanding eyes who listened without judgment. I told him everything. He assured me the reservation was solely in my name and that no one else could alter it without my consent. He promised to send me a written confirmation. Another shield was raised. My third call was to a lawyer I had relied on years ago, Ethan Miller. He listened, his voice heavy with concern. "Evelyn, what they are planning could be considered elder financial abuse. You have every right to protect yourself." He offered to send me documents to sign, a sworn statement that I had paid willingly. When I hung up the phone, I felt taller somehow, as if the burden I had carried for years had been lifted from my shoulders. I was no longer the woman they believed they could manipulate. I was ready to fight back. The next morning, I met Mr. Rodriguez again in his office. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows onto the polished desk where he laid out two documents. The first confirmed that I, and I alone, held the reservation. The second was an addendum giving me full authority to modify any part of the stay. "So, Mrs. Hayes," he said gently, "what would you like us to do?" I studied the page, my pen hovering. For months, my children had seen me as nothing more than a signature, a card to swipe, a simple guarantee. Now that very same signature gave me power. Quietly, I told Mr. Rodriguez what I wanted. At exactly 10 a.m., deactivate the key cards to 4 of the 5 suites. Keep only mine, room 3003, active. At 11 a.m., send staff to inform the guests that changes had been made by the reservation holder. If they wished to remain, they could pay on their own. Mr. Rodriguez nodded, professional and composed. "I will see to it personally. Shall we arrange a taxi for later?" "Yes," I replied, "at 12:30 p.m. for 2 people, myself and my granddaughter Chloe." He didn't ask why. He only promised it would be done. As I signed the papers, a deep certainty filled me. They had underestimated me. Today, they would learn that even the quietest woman can set boundaries when pushed too far. At 9:58 a.m., I sat on the veranda with a fresh cup of coffee. The ocean stretched out wide and blue before me, gulls circling above the waves. Down below, I could see my family by the pool. James and David were splashing with the younger children. Sarah and Lisa were sipping cocktails under umbrellas, their sunglasses concealing their eyes. They looked carefree, certain their scheme was foolproof. My phone rested on the table beside me, waiting. At 9:59 a.m., my heart thudded in my chest, not from fear, but from anticipation. This was the moment I had been working toward through every late night of knitting and every cookie baked before dawn. 10 a.m., my phone buzzed almost instantly. A text message from Chloe. "Grandma, it worked. Dad just tried his card and it flashed red. He looks so mad." I leaned back in my chair, letting the sea breeze lift my hair. A minute later, the phone rang. James's voice was tight. "Mom, there's some kind of mistake. None of our keys are working. Can you come down to reception, please?" "How peculiar," I answered evenly. "Are you sure nothing has changed?" "Of course nothing has changed. Just come to reception, please." I smiled into the receiver, though he could not see it. "I'm a bit tied up right now, son. Important things." I ended the call before he could respond. Below, I saw Sarah storm toward the lobby, waving her useless keycard. At 9:15 a.m., another text came from Chloe. "Grandma, they are all at the desk now. They look so panicked." I sipped my coffee slowly, the taste warm and comforting. For the first time in years, I was the one directing the story. At 11 a.m. sharp, a heavy knock rattled my door. Not a gentle knock, not a hesitant one, but urgent.
I opened it to find James, David, Sarah, and Lisa crowded in the hallway. Their faces were flushed with anger and confusion. Behind them, a few of the grandchildren clutched their beach bags, puzzled by the commotion. "Can you tell us what in the world is going on?" Sarah demanded, her voice sharp. "Good morning to you, too," I replied, stepping aside. "Come in." They pushed into the room, filling the space with their frustration. James tried to keep his tone calm. "Mom, the hotel says you canceled our rooms. That has to be some kind of mistake. Just tell them it isn't true." "But it is true," I said, holding up the papers Mr. Rodriguez had given me. "I canceled 4 of the 5 suites. The only one left is mine." "You can't do that," David stammered. "We have children here." "The same children you plan to keep away from me with a nanny? I want to show you your own words." I handed Chloe screenshots across the table. Their eyes flickered over the cruel lines. Good for something, dispute charges, free vacation. The silence in the room became heavy. Lisa sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. James's jaw tightened, searching for a defense that would not come. "Mom," David finally whispered, "we made a mistake, but leaving us without rooms, that's too far." "Too far?" I asked quietly. "After you planned to leave me with the debt, after you laughed at my excitement, tell me which part of your plan was not too far."
The weight of my words seemed to press them down. No one answered. For once, I did not feel the need to fill the silence. I let it stay. I let them feel it. "You have 2 options," I said at last. "You can gather your belongings, call a taxi, and pay for your own vacation, or you can leave altogether. Either way, this part of the trip is over for you." Sarah's face burned red. "You'll regret this, Evelyn." "No," I said, meeting her eyes steadily. "The only regret I have is waiting this long to stand up for myself." The argument ended not with shouting, but with silence. James and David stood rigid, unable to meet my eyes. Sarah muttered under her breath. Lisa dabbed her face with a tissue. For years, I had been the one shrinking in the corner, but now it was them who could not handle the moment. A soft knock came. Mr. Rodriguez appeared at the door, calm as ever. "Mrs. Hayes, the taxi you requested will be ready in 30 minutes. Your family's belongings are already packed and waiting in the lobby." He gave a respectful nod and stepped back into the hall. I turned to the grandchildren clustered near the doorway. Their small faces were a mixture of confusion and sadness. I knelt so my eyes were level with theirs. "This isn't your fault," I said gently. "I love you all very much. Someday you'll understand why Grandma had to do this." 8-year-old Mason clung to my waist. "We won't build sandcastles now." "Someday we will," I promised, "when the time is right." Chloe rolled her suitcase to the door. She had made her choice quietly but firmly. She wanted to leave with me. As we walked down the hallway together, I did not feel shame. I felt lighter, almost free. For once, I was not being carried along by their choices. I was making my own. The taxi pulled away from Ocean's Edge just as the noon sun spread gold across the pavement. Through the back window, I saw my family clustered at the entrance, suitcases at their feet. Voices were raised in argument. The image grew smaller until the palm trees and fountains swallowed it from view. I turned forward and let the sight go. By 1 p.m., we arrived at Harborview, a modest boutique hotel tucked beside the bay. No grand chandeliers, no sprawling pools, but warmth in every detail. The lobby smelled of fresh-baked bread. A young clerk smiled as if guests were treasures, not burdens. Chloe squeezed my hand. "Grandma, this feels like the right place." Our room was simple. 2 beds dressed in crisp linens, a small balcony with a view of fishing boats rocking in the harbor. I sat down my bag and breathed deeply. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace.
That evening, we shared clam chowder in the hotel's dining room, laughing softly over stories Chloe wanted to hear again. No drama, no secrets, no betrayal, just the two of us free to enjoy a week on our terms. A quiet victory, but a genuine one. That night, after Chloe had fallen asleep, I sat by the balcony with a notebook. The harbor lights flickered against the water, and for once, my thoughts were clear. I had always believed that being a good mother meant giving without limits, forgiving without pause, and never asking for anything in return. But love without boundaries is not love. It is surrender. I thought about the lessons hidden in the wreckage of this trip. First, never put your name or your money on the line without clear agreements. Even family should respect written commitments. A simple email or text message confirming who pays for what can save a world of grief. Second, respect is not a bonus you earn by sacrificing. It is the baseline of any relationship. If someone cannot offer it, they should not have access to your trust or your wallet. Third, when betrayal happens, you do not have to answer cruelty with cruelty. You can answer it with boundaries and calm decisions that protect your dignity. To anyone listening who has ever felt used or invisible, remember that your voice matters. You are not too old to draw a line, not too late to change the story. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are doors that open only for those willing to enter with respect. As I closed my notebook, I realized I had not destroyed a family trip. I had reclaimed myself. As the week unfolded, Chloe and I walked the harbor, ate fresh pastries at a corner cafe, and built small sandcastles on the quiet beach. Each simple moment reminded me that joy does not come from grand resorts or expensive buffets. It comes from honesty, from respect, from choosing who you let close to your heart. I did not ruin a family vacation. I rescued my dignity. My children may one day choose honesty and humility, and if they do, my door will be open. But until then, I will not sit in silence, waiting to be treated as less than I am. If this story touched you, let me know where you are watching from. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that self-respect is not selfish, it is survival. Like this video, subscribe for more stories from the art of revenge, and keep building a community where truth and dignity matter. With love and with strength, this is Evelyn Hayes' reminder. Boundaries are love in action, and they can change everything.